What's up, Chaos Nation? Big Rob here. I shot a video earlier this morning. I'm not too happy with it, so I wanted to put out a new one. OJ Simpson, dead at 76 years of age. A lot of people are going to say, well, good for him. He's dead finally. May he rest in hell or whatever it might be. And you might have your own opinion. But have you watched the trial? Have you watched the entire trial? Have you dissected what really got OJ acquitted? Now, a lot of people say they don't care. They just want that sharp justice. But I have watched the trial. As a matter of fact, about 6-7 weeks ago, I started watching the trial again. And, even my daughter's like, Dad, why do you watch it again? And it's really because it's a fascinating case. You have the LAPD that, pretty much was out to get OJ. Just the weird things that had happened. And it doesn't happen in every trial. Some of you may not know that, for instance, one of the detectives that was leading the investigation took OJ Simpson's shoes home with him, and then the next morning, reluctantly took him to the LAPD crime lab. This was after they were in his possession for 24 hours. Or, however long it was, 12, 15, 16, whatever hours. Questions, surrounding that. Very bizarre. On top of that, blood that was taken from OJ made its way back to the crime scene on Bundy. In which, when it got back to the crim list, there was blood that was missing from the vial. A bunch of weird things happened as well. You got a case in point where a couple weeks later, the detectives go back to the scene of the crime and they find blood smear that wasn't there when they first processed the scene. You got Dennis Fung, who was the criminalist that processed the scene without gloves, without booties, smoking cigarettes, eating. A lot of weird stuff went on. And, you can point to this, that, and the third, but really you got, Detective Furman, who, former Marine himself, prior service Marine, found himself in a very precarious situation. Tapes had surfaced where he was, taped dropping the N-bomb a few hundred times. I mean, it was like every other word. Didn't help the case because they didn't have a search warrant when he jumped the gate at Rockingham, which is where OJ lived. They didn't have a search warrant. And they found this glove that later didn't fit. So you must acquit. And that's where Johnny Cochran came involved. And, OJ had the dream team. At the time, he had, some of the best attorneys on earth. F. Lee Bailey, David Sheck. A lot of these guys, you don't know these names because you haven't done the research. You're just giving, your opinion based on what TMZ told you. Now, I'm not saying OJ did it or he didn't do it, but he had his day in court. And his attorneys proved without a reasonable doubt that he was innocent. And they won. You can't get tried for murder twice. It is what it is. When you go for the throat and you go for the, no pun intended, please. Because God rest in peace those victims, Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. But really, I mean, when you go for full tilt and you're like, hey, no, we're going to go for murder one. Well, you got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And they just didn't do it. Now, later on, OJ, had found himself in a situation where he was found guilty for wrongful death. Very strange. So, of course, the family went after his money. And he paid for it in more ways than one, although they could not get his pension from the NFL because that was protected. A lot of people were upset about that, but, that's life. That's what your pension's there for, and it's protected. People couldn't understand that. And then later on, OJ went to jail. He went to prison for a period of time for some memorabilia that was stolen from him. He went back to reclaim it. It was done at gunpoint, yada, yada. And some people say that was karma. Some people say that his cancer was karma. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there for you to understand, that at one point in time, OJ was a phenomenal human being and revered by the Buffalo Bills. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was taken #1 overall, and he, played his ass off, and he broke a lot of records that had not been, he put out a lot of records that were meant to be broken, but he had set those records, and it's just sad that how everything had to go down, but he had his day in court. Right here, I'm going to leave off. I got to get some things done real quick. I'll hop back on. Just give me a second. So anyways, guys, picking up where I left off. A lot of things. Just very, very erroneous. Very troublesome. A lot of these things occurred. And, like I said, during that time frame, things were just different. And DNA was just coming about. All this other good stuff. But like I said, all the intangibles being said, it just really, when you really peel the skin back and you look, past all the idea and really have an open mind about things, you can sit here and say, well, OJ did it. And, he kind of confessed to it and this, that, and the other. We'll never really know. Unfortunately, he's taken that with him to the grave. We'll never have that closure. But I will say, I've talked to a lot of folks that work in law enforcement, that are, retired law enforcement and, been around for a long time. And a lot of them will tell you, they don't see where a guy like OJ, even during that time period, would be in that kind of physical shape to carry out that mission and carry out that those deadly attacks. You would think that there'd be more blood. You'd think there'd be just more evidence. You know what I mean? Like there'd be. It was a white Bronco with cream interior, and unless he had a change of clothes on his way running to the truck, I just don't see it. So, like I said, a lot of people are going to have their own opinion on this. You're more than welcome to your own opinion. You can, trash the guy if you want to and all that good stuff. But I'm telling you, when you watch the actual trial day by day and you see how incompetent the prosecution was with Marsha Clark and her team arguing, very argumentative, and you watch every day and you see, wow, you can kind of understand why anybody would have walked. If they would have found anybody guilty of those murders based on the preponderance of the evidence they had, I would question that as well. If the guy had, let's say a public defender and he couldn't afford F. Lee Bailey and he couldn't afford Johnny Cochran and Robert Shapiro and, Mr. Kardashian. Yeah, if this guy just had a basic, attorney that was given to him by the county, and he got convicted, I would hope that someone in the community would say, hey, we got to have another look at this. These things aren't adding up. We got detectives climbing over fences without warrants. We got blood missing from the scene that belongs to that went from OJ's residence to the scene and then to the crime lab. That's not adding up. Why were the shoes not, put into evidence when he could have just given those to Dennis Fung, who was the criminalist? Just a lot of really unanswered questions that we'll never get. And like I said, you guys are more than welcome and entitled to say what you want. But when you really watch the trial, and if you've got time, I recommend you do, because there's a lot of things you can learn from that trial that would open up your eyes to see, how someone could be framed, or how a botched investigation could get anybody wrongly convicted. And it's a very, it's a balancing act, and that is, liberty and power. And, from the gate, these detectives, they narrowed it down to OJ like night one. They didn't have any other suspect. They didn't follow any other leads. You got like I said, they never even did a rape kit. They didn't check the rest of the house. They had candles burning. They had all kinds of stuff going on, and it just looked willy-nilly. It just looked like a bunch of investigators figuring out, well, we're going to do it our way, and it was kind of like the old age meeting the new age. And, when you want to get someone convicted on blood and DNA, and all of a sudden now OJ brings out an attorney like Barry Scheck, who I think I called him David. I don't know why, but his name is Barry Scheck. And the guy was just a phenomenal DNA attorney and way ahead of his time. He blew that case apart. And when they questioned the criminalist Dennis Fung, they made him look like a clown. No one had any answers. They couldn't figure out, why were you going to the ex-husband's house without notifying the family first, the next of kin, which would have been, Ron Goldman's family, Nicole Brown's sister. Her father and mother were still alive, so why would you be contacting OJ? Well, it was because there were a few detectives that had run-ins with OJ, and, hey, let's pin the tail on the donkey. It sounds like, OJ finally did it in. And that's just not how law works. And that's not how, criminal defense works. And so, guys, I'm really here to tell you, you can make all the funny jokes you want and, rest in hell and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it was a botched investigation by LAPD that got this man acquitted. So, it is what it is. So, you can, like I said, you can be on either side of the aisle. You can have your opinion on it. But at the end of the day, justice, I don't know. Was it served? Was it underserved? Was it served raw? I don't know. All I know, at the end of the day, the gloves didn't fit. You must have quit, worked, reasonable doubt, probably from day one, based upon all the preponderance of the evidence, all the arguing that went back and forth. You had, them targeting the housekeeper, trying to get her impeached. It was just a really wild time. And 1994 to 2024, very different times. And so, during this time period, a lot of things would have been handled different. Unfortunately, they weren't handled that way back then. And, it just so happens that OJ could afford the attorneys and did his thing. So, it is what it is. I figured I'd put out a video because I know a lot of people are just got their own opinions, and I got mine. I don't think he acted alone, if he acted at all. I personally think that he had a hitman. I think he paid someone and it went a little too far. I think he wanted things to be shooken up. I think he was tired of paying for certain things. I think that she lived a promiscuous life. That's not a bad thing. It just wasn't something OJ was down for anymore. And, things happen. And I think they got out of control really fast. And the guys that he hired to do the job went the distance. And they took it too far. And I think when OJ said his goodbyes to Nicole and he said, "I'm sorry," I think that's probably what he meant. I don't know. We'll never have the exact answer. That's just my opinion. And, hey, to each his own, right? So you're more than welcome to have your own opinion on the story. That's mine. I'm sticking to it. I've watched the case over and over again. I watched the trial, and, certain things happen. You got to acquit them. And when you go for, the ultimate justice, which is first-degree murder, you strike out. You can't retry them. That's how it works. So, guys, OJ Simpson, dead, 76 years old. What a life. What a legacy. He'll be talked about for eternity. On and off the field. What a day. What a day. Guys, I'm Big Rob. Hit up the website, chaosnutrition.com, for all your supplement needs. We got some awesome apparel. I got some more stuff coming out for this summer, some more stuff coming out for winter. New athletes on the horizon. Athletes that we have now are really working their tails off. I'm really honored. It's nice to see the family come together. And, man, we can't do it without your support. So, YouTube 20 saves you 20% off, chaosnutrition.com. I'm Big Rob. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, guys, Keep getting out there. Keep doing whatever it takes. Stay ride or die for yours. I'm out.